welcome to Absolutely Fabulous. My name is Gillian Fennell, also known as Station Mum 101. I love everything about agriculture, especially the people and especially communicating about what makes Australian ag so special.
And I'm Katja Williams, a beef, cattle and cropping farmer, and I love all things ag, and I'm also known as the ultimate farm wife. Together, we are Absolutely Fabulous, and we are talking all things agriculture beyond the headlines.
And we can't wait to give our opinion to you, and we hope you enjoy it.
So let's get into today's episode. Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode. It's episode 11 of Absolutely Fabulous. Today's topics are picking red meat in the supermarket and farm terminologies, which are both topics that have been sent in by AgFab listeners. So fantastic for you guys to be sending those in. And let's start with some chit chat. So Gillian, we're actually pre-recording this episode for the chit chat, but do you have anything you'd like to discuss today?
Not really. Just what are we up to now? So we're nearly at the end of spring. It's moth season at our place, so everything is covered in absolute moths. They leave their dirty moth dust up the walls and everything. And as everyone knows, housework's not my forte, so my house looks very secondhand at the moment. But anyway, we've still got one sheep left in the round yard out there, getting ready to go into the freezer. He's hasn't calmed down at all. He's like I grew up with merinos, and the one we've had out here, he's a Dorper, and they're so strong. I've never had anything to do with them like sort of up close and personal before, and they are ridiculously big and strong. So lucky you don't have to shear them, because otherwise I think it might be nearly impossible. You have any sheep at your place, or you only run cattle?
No sheep here. We sold our last lot of sheep before the last drought, but I grew up on a sheep property.
Yeah. And your mum and dad had merinos?
They were Cooper Suffolks. Fancy British breed. Springtime here, so definitely into spring cleaning. So there are certain jobs that I only get to do on farm sort of during this season as well, and I make sure I do them, like silly things like washing the curtains or exit molding the house or things like that. So definitely well into full swing of that, getting everything set up, because summer here, with hay season and the cattle and everything else is just crazy. Who would choose to do mixed farming? We do, but it does mean you don't have a down period. You go from one busy season to another. It's just with a different enterprise on farm. So being able to try and get those bits and pieces done, I'm in the full swing of... Sorry?
You're in your homesteading thing, like you're making jam and all sorts of shit, aren't you? Like,
yeah.
Oh. Yeah. I know you really enjoy it, and a lot of people take a lot of pride and pleasure out of making jams and preserves and chutneys and that sort of thing. And I really admire people who do that, because it's great. And it's homemade always tastes better than shop bought. But it's not for me.
One of the things I needed to do for me when I first moved to the farm was have something that I could take great pride in, and that is nice for me and my husband to do, that's not farm related, and the homesteading side is that. So we currently have 3 full veggie patches, a greenhouse, and for Christmas Ned's putting in another 2 veggie patches for me. And then those who watch over on the Ultimate Farm Wife as well, I've put in a full orchard. So I've put in a couple of fruit trees a year since we've been here. So I've been on farm nearly 11 years, but in this house, we've been in here 7 years. So our fruit orchards is somewhere between, 7 and 2 years old for those fruit trees. So starting to come into full fruit production, which is amazing. So getting lots of jams, relishes, all those sorts of things done. Still having issues with my citrus. Citrus and I just don't get along. They did not do well in our soil. So I've dug them up and transported them into pots, transplanted them into pots. But now the heat gets them. So we have really quick turnaround in the season. We pretty much we don't really have a spring so much. We have a really short spring. Our spring might be a couple of weeks, but we go from cool temperatures right into the 30s and then right up to the 40s. So the citrus don't seem to love that at our place.
Yeah, like because we've got issues here with water, so we have to reverse osmosis all of our water here. So it's a challenge to have enough water to make anything like this thing. And then the hot wind comes, just burns everything off at ground level. So I gave up. I've tried hydroponics. I've tried shitting pots. So now I just grow. I've got a handful of yuccas and an olive tree that has, he's nearly 15 years old, hasn't done a single thing its whole life. And same with my lemon tree. I think he's about 5 years old. It's still only like waist height. Like, and then those big pointy desert plants. That's all I grow. That's all I can grow. And they're going great guns. I've got so many of them. I'm running out of pots and places to put them. So, but yeah, they don't make any shade. They do nothing of use whatsoever, but they're green and they stay green. So, it's something.
That is something. So let's jump into our first topic. So, Gillian, as a MLA red meat ambassador, I'm sure you'll have lots to say on picking red meat in the supermarket.
Yeah, this is a funny thing because this is a comment that came through on our socials channels. They wanted to know about the colour of the meat and what colour should you choose in the supermarkets. And meat packaging has come so far, even in the last 5 years, right? And so first things first, anything you buy at a supermarket in Australia is going to be safe to eat regardless of the colour. Be very careful though, especially if the plastic has puffed up. Probably steer clear of that one. It might still be safe to eat if you take it home and cook it straight away, but if you have a choice, don't choose the puffy ones because that's usually a sign that something has gone awry in the packaging and bacteria has entered. And so don't, if you can, avoid that one. But the different colours really come about from, so when they're packaged and to improve shelf life and those sorts of things, they put an inert gas in the package as well, which displaces all the normal air where all the bacteria and stuff lives. And that can have an effect on the colour of the meat. It won't affect the taste, it won't affect the texture, but it does make it a little bit more shelf stable. And yeah, that's all it is. So it's an interesting thing. I remember back in the day, before they had all these new technologies and those sorts of things, going to the supermarket, because we rarely ever bought meat at the supermarket because we had a butcher where I grew up. Going to the supermarket with my mum and my brother's girlfriend, and mum was like teaching her how to be like a housewife, as you used to do back in the day, and showing her how to select cuts of meat. And so mum's advice to her was, if you see the meat and it's got that sort of slight rainbow coloured sheen to it, and that is the best piece of meat to buy from the supermarket, because it means that what it actually means is that it's starting to break down, but it will be tender. Like, you have to cook it straight away. Don't take it home and keep it in your fridge for another 3 or 4 days. But that's going to be tender because it is starting to break down already. Some of the things that we pull out of our cold room and eat would horrify the normal person. Fancy restaurants like to call it dry aged. And like our cold room, we've got the UV light and the ozone generator and that sort of thing. So like, it is safe to eat, but it looks, some of it you have to like do a fair bit of trimming. Mark's grandfather, he was notorious. He's passed away now. He was notorious for having a cast iron stomach and regularly would eat things that had grown furry grey mold. And one visitor was horrified, and grandfather looked at him. He said, "You'd grow a fur coat too, boy, if you were in there, because it's cold in there."
Anyone watching the podcast with the video, I have just absolutely cacked myself the whole way through Gillian's story there.
Our views on what is safe and fit to eat probably differ very greatly from normal practice, because it's just what you're used to. And it's also, we have control over our food chain. Like, so we know exactly where that meat's come from. We know how long it's been in there, and we know, that it's still fit to eat. If it's not fit to eat, we'll just feed it to the dogs. So if you are in doubt, if you're at the supermarket and something smells a bit funny or you're not quite sure, don't buy it. Yeah. Don't make yourself sick because I eat things out of my cold room that have a black hard skin on the outside. Don't, because it's two different types of meat. Right, mine has hung in the cold room, and I've harvested it ourselves and that sort of thing. Yours has gone through a very different complex chain with lots of different points where, things could possibly go wrong. And not saying that it does go wrong, but there's greater potential to. So if you're in any doubt, don't buy it and don't eat it. And definitely don't eat it raw. Cook it well.
When Gillian said that this topic had come through, I was like, oh, there's a fantastic lady on Instagram who does videos on this. And do you think I've been able to find her this week? She has not popped up once on my
Babe from America?
A potential female butcher who does video.
Alison Butcher Girl. Yes. So yes, they're two creators that you can look up. Alison Butcher Girl. I don't know exactly what her handle is, but she is a female butcher, and she will explain. And this is her niche. She gets right into it. And Food Science Babe is a American lady. I think she's American, could be Canadian. But she is a food scientist. And we also have our own food scientist, Emma, who we spoke about in a couple of episodes previous in her great book. So they're all on social media platforms and will answer questions if you be respectful and polite. And they'll explain the science behind it and all those sorts of things. But rest assured that 99.99 times out of 100, anything you buy from a supermarket in Australia is safe unless something has gone catastrophically wrong. And that is because of our food safety standards and the regulations involved in food production in Australia. The chances of that are very, very slim. So it doesn't matter what the colour is, you can eat it and it will be just as good for you as anything else.
Yeah, absolutely agree. If the packaging is puffy, if there is any tears or holes, stay away from it. There is more than enough selection at a supermarket. I prefer to buy from a butcher. If I'm buying meat, I very rarely buy meat. We have all our own home kill on farm as well for beef and lamb. So I'm usually only buying chicken or maybe some sort of form of pork, whether it's ham or bacon.
We've actually got home killed pork for the first time. So we had a heap of barley from our other farm. Neighbours had pigs. So we've ended up with a home killed pig for the first time. I haven't eaten home killed pig since I was a kid. And, it's I had nothing to do with the killing process. Father-in-law managed that, and then it hung in the cold room, and then Mark cut it all up. But I was just before we came on to record, I was munching on a bit of pork belly that we cooked in the air fryer, so it's pretty good.
That's pretty good. We do pork every couple of years. Ned has said that if we're going to do pork again, it's my turn to then do the processing. He did the processing last time, and I don't really think that he ate much of the last lot of pork, but I'm more than happy to do that.
It's funny when you're a kid. Like I used to love scalding pigs when I was a kid. Like that was just the business. I don't know why I love to shave the pigs with the little steel cones.
Yeah,
I thought that was just the best fun ever. Now, if I had to do it, like I'd be like, oh my god, because we have our own chickens, and for a while there in ducks, we were processing our own surplus roosters and ducks, and I think we plucked maybe 2 or 3, and I'm just like, this isn't worth it. There's no way on God's earth it's worth plucking this creature. I'd rather go without.
I'd rather just eat the eggs, turn the roosters into something else.
Yeah. So if you love to process your own animals, because a lot of people really do love to, like, especially if they're into hunting and stuff, they love to process their own ducks and that for human consumption. Like, and you can buy plucking machines where you put them in a drum and little rubber fingers, like to knock all the feathers off and stuff. But it's hard work, and if you enjoy doing that, then congratulations, you're far more dedicated than I am.
And there are lots of YouTube videos from lots of American and Australian homesteaders who will actually talk you through the entire process as well now. So that's a great resource for if that's something you do want to try. But for us, it just wasn't worth it either. I'd like to take a short break in today's episode to give a special shout out to our episode sponsor, Southern Cross Small Arms, and their incredible Taipan X. The Taipan X redefines excellence in the hunting world and extended rifle range, merging the swift action of a hunting rifle with the precision needed for vermin control. It's truly the pinnacle of the renowned Taipan series evolution. For our ultimate farm wife community and absolutely fabulous listeners, the Taipan X is a practical choice, offering versatility and reliability in a range of agricultural settings that we'll be using on our farms. For more details, check out our corresponding social media tiles or email me. Thank you, Southern Cross Small Arms and their Type NX for coming on as this episode's sponsor. Now let's get back into today's episode. So that leads us into mid-episode. So Gillian, anything on our socials that you would like to bring up in this space?
No, we don't have, because this is a pre-record.
I
And
know.
if you're not leaving stuff on our socials, why not? Talk to us. We're nice and friendly. We don't mind. We'll have a good chat. But yeah, it's that day-to-day interaction, I think, that I really enjoy, because it's always a surprise, I guess, in the sense that I do in like, oh, people are listening and they are enjoying it. That's really cool, because it's the coolness of it. It's not that, you know, we're so marvelous and important. It's just like, oh yeah, we're making a connection. That's what we really enjoy, is that making that connection and sharing those sorts of things with people. And yeah, so talk to us. We like it on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
And if you are enjoying the podcast, please like and review it. It helps others find us in recommendation lists. People love reading the reviews just as much as we do. And also make sure if you are subscribed, you're not missing a single episode. And if you're enjoying it, you probably have friends or family who would enjoy it as well. So please share it with them.
Please do. Please share. Please spread the word.
So let's head into farming terminology, because this is another topic that has been raised on our socials. Gillian and I are very much not only wanting to discuss agricultural beyond the headlines of, you know, research and newspaper articles and reels and everything that you're sending in, guys, which is absolutely fantastic. But we also want to bridge that divide between urban and farming, or urban and agriculture. So farming terminology, Gillian and I are both in agriculture, so we quite freely throw around terms that we are used to on a day-to-day basis. We do try and break those down for you, but we've been asked to break terminology down even further in this next segment. So I don't even know where to start on this one. Gillian, did you have words you wanted to break down that we use?
Endless amount, I guess, that we could break down, but one that was that, because we were asked what's fats and what's stores.
Yes.
Cattle, I don't know sheep. I'm not really familiar with sheep terminology. So fats is what go direct to slaughter, in the sense that they are fat and ready to eat. And in the old days, you'd sell your fats and the butchers would all come to the sale yards, and, you know, they'd buy their 3 head of fats each and take them to the butcher shop or turn them into whatever. Store cattle are lighter cattle, usually younger cattle. They go on to someone else who will feed them in a feedlot or background them on pasture and those sorts of things and get them ready to be eaten. So that's sort of the difference between a fats and stores. I haven't seen many fat sales lately, because of the way the industry's changed. That there's like the supply chain has changed, in the sense that, you know, feedlotters and backgrounders have contracts with slaughter, you know, with meatworks and those sorts of things. So you don't see fats come up to sale very often. They do on occasion, but you don't see like the big runs of fats at sale yards like you used to.
Yeah. Store sale every week, but then the fats might only be once a month. If it is going to be any more regular than that, the agents will actually call up and say, we're running a fat sale. Have you got any that you can contribute, or any that you'd like to run across the scales?
Yeah. And, you know, it's all often, occasionally, we do have fat cattle here, in the sense that they're big bullocks that have missed a muster on occasion, and they've been hiding out in the scrub. And sometimes it is nice to send them to the sale yards just to see how they perform, and to see, you know, how they weigh and what people are willing to pay per kilo. But generally they don't meet market specs by the time they get fat here. They're too big, too old. So we just eat them ourselves. So when I say most people don't get to eat the type of meat that I do, it's because they're not fit for market. And so it's not worth our while to truck them however many kilometres to the sale yards. So we just keep them here and eat them ourselves, because we have to eat as well. But if you are interested in red meat terminology specifically, MLA does have a glossary of terms on their website, and we will drop that into the show notes or somewhere onto the socials, and it goes A to Z of everything, and it's very common language and very easy, and explained and all that sort of thing. It's got just about everything you could possibly need to know about red meat terminology.
Yeah.
And even I'm just flicking through it now, so it's got basis risk and bear markets and all those sorts of things. Bos indicus, Bos taurus, which is something we've probably spoken about before that people might not understand. Bos indicus, they're breeds of cattle that are referred to as tropical breeds. So Brahman, the ones with the big humps and the big long ears and those sorts of things. And Bos taurus, they're the European breeds, British breeds. So Katja's got short horns, she's Bos taurus.
Mm-hmm.
I've got composite herd here. So we've got Char-Brays, which have a percentage of Bos indicus and Bos taurus, because there's another term for you, hybrid vigor, which is what you get when you cross Bos indicus with Bos taurus. And hybrid vigor means that you get characteristics of both types of breeds that makes that particular animal suitable for a certain location or certain purpose. So yeah, all those sorts of things, and if there's anything we ever say that you're confused about or you'd like to know more, just ask us. Once upon a time, we were, new into the industry as well and had to learn all the hard ways, and we're very understanding. We're not going to make fun of you or anything like that. Ask. And if we don't know, we'll ask someone else and find out for you.
Very safe place. A couple of words that I came up with that I am certain we've referred to in other episodes. One of them was agronomy, so the science of crop production. That's a very brief description of that. Agronomy is quite an in-depth field, but I thought that might be a really nice, soft introduction to it. We were talking about poultry. So when we spoke about avian influenza, so that's referring to poultry and fowls. Gillian just mentioned backgrounding there. So the feeding and management of meat animals from the time that they're weaned as calves until they are finished, or meat feedlot ratios, depending on which market you're selling them in, whether it's fat or stores. So you're either backgrounding them till they get to the weight of whoever's going to take them, or until they are fat and they're going to the fat stores to be ready used.
Yeah, and another word you just used then that might need some explanation is weaner. I've got a funny story about weaners, actually. So we know a weaner as a young animal that's been taken away from its mother, who's being weaned, right? So taken away from milk and is eating grass and grain and whatever else you want to feed to it. So I used to work at a school, and it was in rural Queensland. And so we had kids that were, doing chores and stuff and jobs before they'd come to school. And a lot of our teachers were straight out of uni from Brisbane. And we had these twins that would come to school every day and they'd be late. And the teachers kept saying to them, "Where have you been?" And they kept saying, "We had to take the weaners out. We had to take the weaners out." And so we're having our staff meeting. And the teachers were like, "I think we need to contact DEX, which is, child, protection people." And we're like, "Oh, that's a really serious thing to bring up. Maybe we can talk through the scenario and find out why." And they said, "Well, they keep telling us that they are late to school because they have to take the weaners out. But getting hot dog sausages out of the freezer should not take that long." And us locals and the teachers who'd been there for some time, we're like, "Oh, no, honey, no, a weaner." And then we had to explain what a weaner was and what taking the weaners out meant. And then they're like, "Oh, but that's like child slavery. Like, why are they doing that?" And we're just like, "Well, because that's sort of their life." And it's pretty interesting that we just take all this terminology and everything for granted. And their first thought about a weaner was a hot dog sausage, and that's something that we would never even consider. That's what a weaner was. That was their background in that terminology, and we're just like, "Oh, no, we might just explain a few things to you about what a weaner actually is." And from that, we had an award then for all teachers when they wouldn't understand something a kid would say. We'd have to have these little sharing moments in our staff meetings, and then the award would get passed on to another teacher who'd made a terrible misunderstanding.
That is definitely one of the terms that we just don't think of, because particularly during autumn and spring, For our operation, like we do 2 lots of carvings, so we do 2 lots of weanings. That's just something that we talk about all the time. Would never have thought.
Not in a million years. And it was just, yeah, and it just blew my mind too, because I'd grown up listening to those sorts of words and terminologies, and the kids didn't even think to explain to the teachers what it actually was, because for them it was just so natural. But that's where we're trying to, bring everyone along on this journey with us and learn and understand. So when we do talk, you know what we're talking about. One that might need explaining to is a B double.
Oh, yes.
Because even like, because where we live, we've got our own B double. But further north than us, when they transport things, they use a triple road train. So a B double is a truck with a certain trailer configuration, and like a big, like, I don't know, what would town people call them? We call them road trains, prime movers. If you've ever seen the movie Cars, Mac, like,
it's basically a 2-trailer.
Yeah. And a B double is like an A trailer and a B trailer, and it's like a little shortish trailer and a big longer trailer. And then when you get into further, more remote sort of with different road rules, because road rules are challenging to understand in South Australia, you have triple road trains. And that's when you're out on the open highway and you see them and they're over 50 metres long, and they're 3 big trailers. And in those trailers, you have decks. So you might say, oh, we're going to truck 6 decks or 3 decks or however many decks, because there's a top deck and a bottom deck. And inside the decks, you have pens. So we've got, we need 14 pens of 14 or 12 pens of, 10 or whatever. And that's when you do your drafting, and then you load, and et cetera, et cetera. So when I was working at the school, we had some kids that I worked with who could not grasp the concept of multiplication until I split it up for them and explained it to them in terms of decks and pens of cattle, and they got it instantly. Yeah.
Absolutely. So Gillian was talking about road rules for these trucks. So there is not many actual areas or roads in our local area where you can have a triple road train. They just don't meet certain standards, either population or road type or whatever it is. So most of the trucks in my area, the largest they're probably going to be is a B double. The further remote you get in Australia, the bigger the truck setups, because you've got that lower population, you've got that different road setup.
Yeah, it's road train configurations and the rules and regulations, they're really complex. And yeah, that's why. And, like road train operators and truckies, road train operators, truck drivers, truckie in the vernacular, they're not as simplistic as people might like them to imagine them to be, because they have to adhere to some really strict regulations. They've got logbooks, they've got all these sorts of things, all this paperwork and registration and stuff they need to deal with. And it's a challenging job as well. So, everyone plays their part in agriculture, and we've all got heaps of regulations. There's, very few jackaroos and cowboys in the industry doing the wrong thing, because that's not what we're about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you ever heard a word, Katja, like that was in agriculture that you just had no concept as to what it was? Like you heard that and you're just like, I've never heard that before.
Probably.
Yeah. I'm sure there's been like cropping things and stuff that I've heard that I've just gone, what? Like, that means nothing to me.
I think I've been lucky enough that when most of the terminology is being used, I'm actually down the paddock. And so via context, I can attach, oh, that's what they're talking about, or that's what they mean. So I don't really know if there's any actual like on-farm terminology that really got me. Once we moved into the office and into the bookwork, and I was very much detached from some of the terminology, then I was like, yeah, I don't know what we're doing. Like, you could be showing me that spreadsheet and all these numbers, and that's where I start to have terminology. But I think that's going to be a different topic for another day, is the farm office, because what we run through, like I've run multiple businesses before, and so I had a really good understanding of basic business paperwork. But when you move that paperwork into an agricultural industry, and when you remove that paperwork from actually being in the paddock with context, that's where, for me, a lot of the terminology got mixed up. And I had to be like, please explain. I feel like Pauline Hanson, please explain. But in the paddock context, so nothing that has really caught me too off guard so far.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure there's things that I've heard that I've just had no idea. I'll have to rack my brain. And if you're listening and you've heard a word that you've got no concept as to what it means or what it was, and then you've had a really embarrassing story about how you figured it out, please tell us, share it with us, because, you know, we will have these moments. So let's have a bit of fun.
I was on an American podcast, and they said, what is Lucerne? So if you are an American listener, because we are starting to reach out across America as well with our podcast, Lucerne is the same as your alfalfa. So some of our crops, they're the same crop, but we use different words to describe them, which is also a complexity of agriculture.
Rapeseed in the UK.
Canola.
Had me completely stonkered. I'm like, what is rapeseed? It's canola. Call it canola. That's a much better name for it.
Much nicer term.
But yeah, so I don't know. This is going to be a short one, I think. How's the conference coming along?
The conference is coming along really well. So early bird tickets will be on sale from December. So December and January. Then we'll head into the normal tickets for February and March for the conference to be here in April. So it'll be here before we know it. The rough timetable is drawn up. Most of the funding and sponsorship applications will be finalised around December and January, either just before Christmas or when everyone gets back in the new year. So we're looking forward to really tying everything down neatly in bows then. I'm still looking for sponsorship, guys, because the more sponsorship we get, the more I get to treat those who are in attendance. Went to the zoo the other day. The kids and I were actually involved in a photo shoot for the zoo, which was very exciting. And that only came about because of my interactions in setting up the conference and talking to the lady who does their socials and things like that. So keep widening everyone's networks, because you get opportunities like that. So we actually got to go and see the lions being fed. So we got to get some photos there with them. And then we have a giraffe feeding experience also coming up, which is very exciting.
So I'm assuming there's like a special certification for zoo animal meat.
Yeah, like, absolutely.
If you provide meat to the zoo, we'd really love to hear from you, because I'm really interested to know, like, what do you have to do to provide stuff to zoos? Because they're pretty, like, exotic, rare, highly cared for animals. It can't be just, I'm just going to duck down to Woolies and get it, like, you know, a couple of cartons of carrots or something. Like, do you have to have special things in place? Do you have to be organic, you know, GM free? Like, how do you feed a zoo animal? We should look into that, I think.
Yeah, I'll ask the zookeepers next time I'm there. I know they've got a really strict feeding schedule that they use for all the animals, and they are, what you see them being fed in their enclosure is not their feed ration. That's sort of like extra treats and a little bit of a top up. Behind the scenes of what they're feeding them at the zoo is so much more complex. It's broken down to ratios. It's broken down to exactly what they need, when they need it, for energy, protein, nutrition, all of that. And that all happens behind the scenes, not for what you actually see in the enclosure. But really excited to bring the conference to everybody. Really excited to have the zoo there as just a beautiful background and a beautiful additive. Anyone who's staying on site will get a 2-day family zoo pass as well. So if you're traveling with the kids, we'll have the parents' room and the 2-day zoo pass, so they can be looking at animals or they can be in the kids' room, whichever suits you guys, because I know that some of you are traveling massive kilometres to be there at the conference. So we're just wanting to do as much as we can, both in over the 2 days, as well as for you and your family or your friends. Keep yourself company in the car, be safe, wear seatbelts, and just looking forward to it.
Lock it in.
Lock it in. Save the date. We'll put it. We
we
might
need to
even
have
do
a
a save
couple
the
of-
date tile up on our socials for this week.
We need to get some prizes for people who've travelled the furthest, I think, because every conference I've been to, they have a prize for persons who's travelled the furthest. So I think we can do that. So be prepared to work out how many Ks and how many planes and how many different modes of transportation you used to get to Dubbo. I reckon that'll be really fun.
And one of the very exciting auction items that we do have up for offer is by this episode's sponsor, Southern Cross Small Arms, and their Taipan X. So they have provided for the conference a rifle. So if you have been listening to our other episodes where we are talking pest management or anything like that, you've heard their shout outs over the last 3 weeks, then this is the rifle that you need to check out for you and your farm. It is not only pump action, but it can also be in a straight pull, and it is very versatile and practical as well.
And are they because you're having the hands-on sort of sessions, are they going to do a firearm safety session, the Taipan X people?
Not at the moment, but to be able to get that raffle item, to get that auction item, you will need your license and you will need a PTA, a permit to acquire, before it is dispatched to you.
Yeah. So if you're interested in entering that raffle, perhaps make sure all your licensing and everything is up to date. Because that'd be really cool if they came along and did like a hands-on sort of demonstration. But again, that might be challenging because of all the rules and regulations that we have to adhere to, and guns going off at the zoo. Probably not a great idea. It's not an African.
It will be just a photo of it because and each state and territory's different rulings, but we will work that out. We will get excited about lots of the other sponsorship opportunities coming in as well. We've got George the Farmer, who's come on to donate some books for the Child's Room, the Royal Flying Doctor Service, as well as the Rural Firefighting Service. They are all putting together packs as well. So fantastic. It's just all coming together. It's a great opportunity. It is a conference like no other because it is that practical implication. We are not only talking about things that you can do for your business, but it's back to the people. I want to focus on the people. We want to focus on the people and the resilience of people, which comes from practicality. It comes from experience. So if we can share that with you guys, then that is what makes this conference so different, is its practical application. As I said to Jillian a few weeks ago when we were recording another one of our episodes, my talk is on knowing your timings, because whether that is seasonal timings, job task timings, that all makes a really practical, logistical strategy that is going to remove the nightmare from being on farm. And that can be manipulated and tweaked to whatever your farming setup is. It does take time to put it together, but I'm going to give you the structure and the framework to be able to do that. And that is the same with all our topics, all our speakers. It is going to be the practical application for things. And we're also going to do some myth busting. So we've got Safe Work New South Wales coming in. No, they're not going to take your farm if there's an accident. They are there to help. They are there to provide infrastructure and workshopping, and that's what we're going to be talking about with that workshop as well.
Yeah, it's and like a lot of people have said, oh, I've been in the industry a while, there's nothing in it for me. You're always going to learn something, because like you said, the myth busting aspect of it, like there's so many misconceptions in that we're operating under, that hearing it direct from source and then again making those connections with these regulatory bodies and with these service providers, they're only going to help you and your business function better. So if you're umming and ahhing about there being nothing there for you, come along anyway. You will learn something, and not only that, you will be a role model, a mentor for the next generation coming through. We want to support these families. We want to, empower these women and, anyone who's entering into farming and being that first-time farmer, I guess, or shifting production systems or shifting into a different family dynamic. Support them and let's build a nice, supportive environment for each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's absolutely nailed that on the head, Gillian. They are a lot of the themes that are running through these courses as well, and the background for that as well. Whether you've come from a farming background and you're either moving into your family farming business, so you're going from a kid on a farm to an adult in the farm, or whether you've come from a farm, you're going into your husband's farm or your partner's farm, whether you come from the city or you're a townie and you're moving out to a farm, there is just so much that we're going to cover around that that's really going to help that transition and really support you not only on farm but in the industry. You can find out, if you are not certain where you fit in the farming dynamic, you're not certain what you can add to the farming role, we're covering all of that as well. So it is a really big 2-day conference.
It's going to be massive. And I think it's like the Ultimate Farm Wife podcast series. It's going to be an excellent tool to equip you and to also to highlight to you that whatever you're experiencing or going through, positive, negative, or neutral, you're not alone. There are people who are in the exact same situation as you, and you can learn from each other and support each other. Because even if you're in something that's going really well, you might want to do something different. You might want to mix it up a bit. There's people out there who can, mentoring each other, supporting each other, learning from each other, all those sorts of things.
Yeah. We're also going to be talking a little bit about personal finance. So if you are wanting to set yourself up financially free of the farm, how do you do that? Whether you don't join assets and finances initially, or whether you have joined them and then you want to set yourself up individually for something else for yourself, because for a lot of us, it's important to have something for ourselves, not just part of the farm. And whether that is, I've talked on the Ultimate Farm Wife before to many of my guests, and they will say, well, even if we're in the middle of a bit of the drought, that financial independence that I've put aside will get me another washing machine if the other one dies and the farm can't afford it. Or that means I can do 2 washing machines, because one can be, if you've got the water, one can be for your chemical clothing or your high grease clothing if you're doing lots of mechanics, and the other one can be town clothes, sheets, anything that you don't want to go through with the greasy old shirt or all the yard dust.
Yeah, and that's a tip, that's another trick and tip that your new entrants might not understand or realise. Why would I need 2 washing machines? It's like, well, you only need to run your baby clothes through after you've done a load of work clothes to understand why you might need 2 washing machines. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a great time, I think, and you've decided and you've just made it happen. So that's incredible.
Absolutely. It's happening, and very excited to bring that to everyone. It's definitely a true passion of ours to be able to do that. So keep an eye out for those in the episodes that we're bringing you in the new year. It'll definitely have a lot more finalised details, so we can really talk about the workshops that are happening. We can talk about the speakers who are coming, because that will all be finalised by the new year.
Yep.
Baby.
Yes, the new baby. Oh, we can't wait for new babies, because I can't have kids anymore. So I just really like to look at other people's and nurse them for a little while and then give them back. Quite happy to give mums a break, but I don't want full-time baby anymore.
And that is fair enough. Gillian, is there anything you want to finish up today's episode with?
Oh, I don't think so. I just, just follow us on the socials, enjoy the conversation, join in the conversation. Please rate and review us on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on, because we do want to get on that recommended list, just for a little personal achievement. It doesn't mean anything. We're not making millions of dollars out of this or anything. I think at the moment it's just costing us money, but that's okay, because it's our passion to communicate and to, I think, create something, and we enjoy doing it. So yeah, but we like to have achievements like that sort of thing to sort of keep us motivated and interested and that sort of thing. It feels nice when people say nice things about us, and we want you to enjoy it. And if there's something burning that you want to know, or if there's some type of session that you'd like us to do, you want to ask us questions about ourselves or about what we do or anything like that, ask, and you'll get a shout out. And let us know if there's anything you want us to promote, any of your local community things or anything like that, and we'll quite happily mention them for you.
And if you are looking at doing some sponsorship with us, please reach out as well. We love doing information pieces, awareness pieces. And if you've got a product for the agricultural community, like Southern Cross Small Arms has done with their Type NX, and you'd like to come on to raise awareness for that product, for that practical implication into a family farming environment or an agricultural environment, please come on. Or even if it's for that bridging of our urban and farming communities.
Send us something and we will give it some real life testing. We will quite happily give testimonials for things that work and solve our problems. So if you have a thing then you think is going to solve a problem for us, send it to us and we'll give it a crack and we'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah, we'll let you and the community know. So thanks everyone for joining us for another episode, and we will all see you very shortly. Thanks, guys.
I want to give before we wrap up today's episode. I want to give a big thank you to our sponsor, Southern Cross Small Arms. This rifle is a game changer for pest control and wildlife management. This rifle is a game changer offering precision and versatility that makes it suitable for both female and male listeners. Suitable for both female and male listeners. To our sponsor, if you're interested in learning more about the Type NX, head over to our social media tiles dedicated to pest control and wildlife management. The Southern Cross offering precision and versatility. Thank you very much, Southern Cross suitable for both female and male listeners. And again, thank you everybody for listening to another episode. Our sponsor, Southern Cross Small Arms.